I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak. I'm sorry I cannot speak in Malayalam. I don't know Malayalam as well as to be able to speak at an occasion like this. So please excuse me those, please excuse me for speaking English. Jonachayan and Lily Kochuma have been very close to our family and very close to lots of people. And they are like my parents. When my dear father passed away a long time, my mother passed away in 2001 May at the age of 84 or so. Then I told some years later to Jonachayan, Achayan, you and Kochuma are like our parents now, and you are like our parents. And I also told Achayan on behalf of Kochuma also that we'll never be able to repay the debt that we owe to both of them. So when Kochuma passed away on 9th December of this year at the age of 86, I felt as if I have lost my second mother. In fact, in April of this year, when Kochuma was very ill, and when she was admitted also in the hospital, and Susie had told us and asked some advice or so, that's how we came to know that she was very ill and she is going to be admitted in the hospital. We had some work in Kerala also, but then at that time we decided, my wife and I, that we will come down and see Kochuma in the hospital because she was very serious. By God's grace and through prayer of God's grace and almost in a miraculous way, Kochuma became all right and she was back at home. And here I might say that Achayan and all the three children, that is Susie, Mercy and Bobby and the in-laws, everybody have been very closely knit together family, and they have been very well looking after both their father and mother, which is something which is very, very good for us to, it's a very good example. And Kochuma has, whenever she was in hospital or whenever she was not well or whenever Jonachayan was not well, they would all come, including Susie from USA, each time to look after her. So this is something which our present generation would well take an example from. But we have already, it was read to us in Malayalam, Psalm 90. And there it is said the years of our life are 70 years and 10, that is 70, or 80. So God has said in one of the Psalms, I will bless with long life those who are walking in His ways, usually. But sometimes He might take people, godly people away earlier also. That is possible. Kochuma has lived up to the ripe old age of 86, which is more than the biblical 80 years, 80 years, which God has said. And she has been a very great, good example. My parents, both of them were very fond of her. My father was very fond of his family, but he was very fond of Jonachayan and Kochuma because of so many things. Their hospitality, their advice, they would always be willing to help, and lots of things like that. And we have felt particularly close to them, we as children also. And Kochuma has gone to her heavenly home on the day when she passed away. God has released her from her labors. We may be sad, the family members, but she would be happy up in the eternal mansions. So God has taken her to Himself, not just because of her good works, but because of her faith in Jesus Christ. We can be sure. I would like to read a few verses from Proverbs 31, and which I can say definitely applies to Kochuma. Proverbs 31 talks about the model wife, and some of the verses that particularly apply to Kochuma, I would like to read that out. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10. Firstly, verse 10 to 12. Who can find a virtuous woman or a good wife? for her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust him, so that he shall have, yes, then she will do him good and not, she will do him good all the days of her life. That is 10 to 12. Then 27 to 29. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. And then the last verse, that is 31. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates, because the gates of the city was where all the business was done, and she has been a great support to Achayan and so many other people also. That was one of the hallmarks of Pachama and Achayan. And Achayan could not have achieved all his hospitality, which he has not only close, very close relatives, children, very close relatives like ourselves, but anybody, relatives or somebody whom they knew who was in need, they were always willing to put them up at home and show great hospitality, affection, help in every way possible. Pachama was very pious also, and she used to, I think, have the family prayers regularly at home. And when Achayan, Johnny Chayan, was seriously ill when he came back in 1973, I was doing my first year post-graduation in Delhi. That time Achayan was quite seriously ill. Pachama was fasting the whole time and praying. We came to know, she didn't tell us that, we just came to know about it. She wanted him to be admitted in the, at that time the doctor's strike was going on, the junior doctor's strike, so the big government hospitals were not functioning properly. She wanted him to be admitted in the most expensive private hospital at that time, that was Holy Family. Then my mother, as the eldest sister of the child, insisted that they should go to Lucknow. And they, Pachama also went, the child went, and this is just to show her care, concern for everybody. And when my wife was ill, in 1980 or so, of jaundice, Pachama from Delhi came with the root. You know, there's a special Ayurvedic root that is made, which we didn't have access to that. She brought it, and she was given it, and she became better only after that, because there's no proper allopathic treatment for jaundice. Pachama was excellent in her housekeeping. Her house always looked spick and span. Whenever we would come to the house, anybody would come, we would see everything in order, and she was extremely good in her housekeeping. We looked forward to the food and the refreshments. She was good in pudding, trifle, other things. And when she did spend for a special occasion, she would economize during the rest of the month to make up for the extra charge. This also I was aware of. So you see how thrifty, because it was only Achayan who was working in the government service with a few stints abroad. So nobody would ever, there was never any need or any problem. If anybody came, they would be very well looked after. And my elder brother and my younger brother, who went into the Navy, Merchant Navy, they both stayed in Delhi, and Achayan and Pachama looked after them for several weeks. I don't know the exact period, but I think it is for a few months. Both of them stayed in their home. Pachama was, and she was so cheerful about it. We were all made to feel at home. Nobody, at no time did we ever feel that we are being a burden on them. I remember the first time I saw Pachama and Achayan, because when I was very small, I may have been taken to Kerala, or may have seen them, but I don't remember that. It was in the winter of 1957 and 58. I was only 9 years plus. And my mother, she was shifting from she was a doctor, shifting from one hospital to another in UP. So she wanted to leave us with Achayan. So that is the first time we saw I remember, saw Pachama. Susie was only 5 years old at that time. Mercy was only 1.5. Bobby was not yet born. And how well Soman, my elder brother, and I were looked after. And Pachama used to, so beautifully, she conversed with me, asked me all about my school, gave me advice, disagreed about some things, gave other advice, and really told such stories that it was very, very interesting. And later on, we went to Budni also when they were transferred from, this was Deoghar in Bihar. Then when Achayan was transferred to the tractor testing and training station in Budni in Madhya Pradesh in the Vindhya ranges. There also 2-3 times we have gone and stayed with them, my younger brother and I, and sometimes my elder brother also, and we really enjoyed these trips because it was a very scenic place, but most of all, the hospitality of Achayan and Pachama. The way she looked after us, she would make very good food, and then particularly also some of the evening things like boli, there's a special chapati-like thing which is sweet. Then her ice creams, in those days, the fridges were in short supply, so not that much. So the ice creams also and all these things, we really look forward to these things each time. After that in Delhi, many times we have stayed with Achayan and Pachama. When I was a postgraduate also, they insisted that I should eat for 1 month dinner. Then after that, they would have continued, because I was staying very nearby in the hostel. I would have continued, they wanted me to continue, but I declined. So this is the way they have been helpful not only to us, their close relatives, but also to lots of people, Anybody who had a need, the most distant relative who would come to Delhi or wherever they were, would be well entertained and helped in some way or the other. This is really wonderful. Paul could say at the end of his life in 2 Timothy, that was just before his execution, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race. Pachama, we can say the same thing on behalf of Pachama, because God does not differentiate necessarily that between the full-time work and the secular work. In her, just like Brother Lawrence in the 17th century is said to be one of the greatest Christians, because as a cook in the monastery in France, he was always thinking, he was doing all the work of cooking and he was thinking of God also. This way, Pachama has really done well. In the place allotted to her, in her own home, she has received helped so many people. And with the housekeeping, definitely God, she has done it for God, and we can truly say that she can also say, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness. I would like to end by that quotation from Revelation, chapter 14, verse 13, where it says, Blessed are the dead who have died in the Lord, that they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow them.